In October 1939, a 31-year-old U-boat captain named Günther Prien did something the British Admiralty had called impossible. He slipped his submarine, U-47, through a narrow channel that was supposed to be sealed off and into Scapa flow, the Royal Navy's main home base in Scotland. He found the battleship HMS Royal Oak anchored there and sank her in under 20 minutes. 835 British sailors died that night, some of them teenagers. Prien escaped the way he'd come in, and within days he was a national celebrity, the first U-boat commander in the German Navy to receive the Knight's Cross, flown to Berlin to shake Hitler's hand in person. Less than a year and a half later, Prien was dead, along with his entire crew, and Germany never found out exactly how. U-47 simply stopped reporting somewhere in the North Atlantic in March 1941. No survivors, no wreckage recovered for decades. One of Germany's most celebrated war heroes, gone without so much as a final radio message. That's basically the entire story of German U-boat crews in World War II. It didn't matter how skilled you were, how famous you were, or how many ships you'd already sunk. If you served on a U-boat long enough, the odds eventually caught up with you. This video is about exactly that question, the real odds. Not which navy won the Battle of the Atlantic overall. That's a longer story for another time, but something narrower. If Germany handed you a spot on a U-boat crew sometime between 1939 and 1945, what were your actual chances of surviving the war? Around 40,000 men served on German U-boats. The most widely cited estimate puts the dead at roughly 28,000, and that's probably conservative, since German naval paperwork gets thinner and less reliable the later the war drags on. That puts the death rate above 2 in 3. Add the roughly 5,000 who ended up as prisoners of war, and only a small fraction of everyone who ever climbed aboard a U-boat came home from the war the same way they left it. It wasn't always this lopsided. In the first stretch of the war, German submariners had a name for it: Die glückliche Zeit, the happy time, and the name wasn't exactly subtle. Britain hadn't built up its convoy escorts yet, sonar coverage was thin, and a handful of aggressive young captains turned themselves into national heroes almost overnight. Prien was one. Otto Kretschmer, nicknamed Silent Otto for his habit of attacking convoys on the surface at night instead of staying submerged, where his boat was faster and harder to detect, became the highest-scoring U-boat commander of the entire war, credited with sinking 47 ships before his capture. These men were hunting merchant convoys, the cargo ships and oil tankers keeping Britain fed and fueled, and the cost on the other side of that ledger was enormous. Thousands of merchant sailors went down with those ships. But for a brief window, from the German side, this looked like a war that elite U-boat crews could simply keep winning. That illusion fell apart fast, and almost all at once. In March 1941, within the same 10 days, Germany lost 3 of its most decorated aces. Prien and U-47 vanished without a trace. Joachim Schepke was killed when his boat, U-100, was detected, rammed, and sunk by a British destroyer. And Otto Kretschmer's U-99 was driven so deep by repeated depth charge attacks that the hull began to fail, leaving him no choice but to surface, scuttle the boat, and surrender. All 3 men had trained together, been personally mentored by Admiral Dönitz, and been held up by German propaganda as proof the U-boat arm was unstoppable. Within 10 days, 1 was dead, 1 was a prisoner, and 1 had simply ceased to exist as far as anyone could determine. 2 of those 3 losses, Schepke's and Kretschmer's, were inflicted by the exact same pair of British escort ships on the exact same night. All of that was the story of the famous captains. For the roughly 40,000 ordinary men who actually filled out these crews, the war looked a lot less glamorous, even before a single depth charge went off nearby. A typical Type Vet U-boat, the workhorse of the entire fleet, packed around 44 men into a hull not much longer than a basketball court, and most of that space was already taken up by torpedoes, batteries, and food stores for patrols that usually ran somewhere between 3 and 6 weeks. There weren't enough real bunks to go around, so men rotated through whatever sleeping space was free, sometimes stretched out across torpedo racks because every other surface in the boat was already spoken for. Nobody bathed, nobody shaved, The same uniform stayed on for the entire patrol, and by the third or fourth week at sea, survivors described the air inside as a near-permanent mix of diesel fumes, unwashed bodies, and spoiling food, with barely enough ventilation to make it bearable even before the boat had to seal itself shut and dive. And that was simply what a patrol felt like when nothing went wrong. The reason U-boat crews kept losing this fight comes down to fairly simple physics. A submerged submarine can't retreat the way a soldier in a foxhole can, or the way a ship under air attack can try to maneuver out of the way. Once a destroyer fixes your position with sonar and starts dropping depth charges, your options shrink down to silence, depth, and waiting. There's no fallback position to pull back to. If a charge detonates close enough, the pressure hull buckles, the boat floods, and there usually isn't a rescue ship standing by afterward, because the same escort that just sank you isn't going to stop and search for survivors in the middle of an ongoing battle. And the Allies kept getting better at finding U-boats in the first place. Long-range aircraft eventually closed the gap in the middle of the Atlantic where U-boats used to operate beyond the reach of any patrol plane. New centimetric radar let escort ships detect a surfaced U-boat in total darkness, at a range no lookout's eyes could match. Codebreakers working at Bletchley Park were reading enough of Germany's naval traffic to steer entire convoys around the wolf packs waiting to ambush them. By 1943, a U-boat crew leaving port wasn't really hunting anymore. It was sailing into a trap that had usually already been laid for it. That shift hit its breaking point in May 1943. In a single month, the Allies sank more than 40 U-boats, something like a quarter of Germany's entire operational fleet, gone in about 4 weeks. German sailors started calling it Black May. Admiral Dönitz pulled what remained out of the North Atlantic and later admitted, privately, that the battle was lost. From that point forward, U-boat duty wasn't a campaign with good odds in some months and bad odds in others anymore. It had simply become one of the most dangerous jobs a person could be assigned to in the entire war. What makes this even clearer is a comparison most people never think to make. The United States ran almost the identical job, submarine warfare, against Japan in the Pacific, and came out with completely different numbers. Around 16,000 Americans served on U.S. submarines, and just over 3,500 of them died, putting their death rate at roughly 1 in 5. Still genuinely dangerous, several times more dangerous than serving in the regular U.S. Army, but nowhere close to 2 in 3. The job itself wasn't what made German U-boat duties so lethal. Japan never built anything close to the dense, layered submarine hunting network the Allies assembled in the Atlantic. 2 countries ran the same occupation during the same war, and the odds depended almost entirely on who was hunting you. By 1944, German U-boat crews knew their odds, more or less, even if the German public back home wasn't getting the real numbers. New designs like the Type XXI, faster and quieter underwater, finally started entering service in early 1945, but nowhere near in time, or in the numbers needed, to change how the war ended. For most of the men who shipped out after Black May, signing on to a U-boat crew meant taking one of the least survivable jobs in the entire German military, with a fairly clear idea of what those odds actually meant. Prien never got a final battle, a chance to surrender, or even a confirmed cause of death recorded anywhere. U-47 simply went quiet somewhere in the North Atlantic and never resurfaced, one name among roughly 28,000 men who shared that same fate.